Sick Twisted Freaks, it's Rolly. How you doing? Welcome. I know, it's been a minute. I know. I'll get to that in just a second, but before I do, I'm going to give you a list of names. Some of these you might know, some of them you may not. Robert W. Morgan, Larry Lujak, The Real Don Steele, Charlie Tuna, Gary Burbank, Wolfman Jack, Don Imus, Casey Kasem, Jim Ladd. These are all icons of radio that I've heard over the years, and because I got to hear some of these people in their prime, it was my lifelong dream to be on the radio. And I got to live out that dream, and it was okay until it wasn't. Because I was born too late to be a boss jock at KHJ Los Angeles, for example. I was not a lonesome LA cowboy like Jim Ladd. I don't have a mean streak in me to be a shock jock like Howard Stern or Don Imus. I'm not a right-wing bomb thrower, which is, that's what passes for personality on the radio today. So we parted ways, radio and I, a long time ago, and that first parting was not amicable. And then about 10 years ago or so, I got a chance to take a second bite at the apple, and I got to close out that part of my life on my terms. And I am forever grateful for that opportunity. But if you're looking for a post-mortem on that part of my life, there's not much to tell. It's really simple. What I loved about radio wasn't there anymore. And that meant that there wasn't any room for me and the kind of thing that I did. And since then, whether or not it was Weird 101 or Squirrel Radio or Left of Center or just plain old Rolly, I've done one thing or another online ever since. Until now, because lately I've been feeling really unmotivated to continue any kind of podcast or any kind of online anything, because the same thing's happening in podcasting that happened in radio, at least in my humble opinion. The independent podcaster, like myself, like some others that you may find, they're getting pushed out of the platform after all these years because they've been minimized and pushed out by the people that have flooded the zone with, the new stuff, the gentrifying thing in podcasting. And that's just because marketers realized, hey, we can make a buck off of this. And I'm not talking just about the big production houses like Wondery. Memo to you, that's my favorite of all of the big production houses. They seem to have the best shows, in my opinion, but they are what they are. It's not just them, but it's also the folks that charge an insane amount of money to teach you what they think podcasting is. And spoiler alert, it's marketing. So you take a look at the top podcasts out there right now. It's true crime, it's comedians, it's celebrity interviews. I'm at the point where I think we just ought to sell the whole platform to Lifetime, so that way you get a podcasting Christmas. Girl boss radio executive from the big city goes back home to Goat Pump, Alabama, and find Mama's next door neighbor. Well, doomsday prepper, COVID denier, actually in the crowd on J6, but's really got a heart of gold. And by the way, got a lot of that too, because, when the ATMs go down and the urban riding starts, you're going to need something to haggle with. What? I digress, I know. This all comes back to Jim Ladd, actually, because when I heard that Jim Ladd had passed away, that hurt a lot. It really did. Same way it hurt me when Casey passed away, because I grew up with Casey every Sunday afternoon. And definitely when the Wolfman passed, because I knew the Wolfman tangentially. We had first met online in a broadcast professionals forum in 1986 on CompuServe. Yes, I'm that old. It was my dad's account. And yeah, I got one of my own later on. But what? I'm old. What do you want? Look at my head. We had a few emails back and forth over the years, but when he passed away, that was a personal loss for me because I knew the guy more than I think most. Well, I say more than most. I mean, I had you call it a parasocial relationship? I emailed him back and forth. We had a couple of conversations over the years. I knew him. I had personal contact with him. So that stung a little. Jim stung in a different way because he really is the last of his kind. He is the last DJ, like Tom Petty. That song was about him. Jim was also part of my life because he was the DJ that narrated his way through Roger Waters' album Radio Chaos. That was when I first became aware of Jim Ladd, the Radio Chaos album in 1987. And then later on, I found his interview series and the incomparable headsets, a show that everybody has tried and failed to imitate, even me. Jim Ladd and his talent and his creativity left an indelible mark on me. And it's for that reason I started thinking about this and started listening to the old tapes that I had of headsets specifically. That the old rusty wheels creaked back into life, and the wheels started turning, and I started coming up with, well, is it time? And so I'm going to tell you this now with the caveat that I don't know how long this is going to take. But I'm back in the lab. And I can tell you that there will be a season of the Pungoverse coming. Alex, at some point, is going to come down from the attic. If you don't know Alex, don't worry. He's a different kind of cat. I think you'll like him. I'm going to write a new story, and I may or may not write a really, really old one that was lost to time in somebody else's garbage can. The upside to that last one is I can make it the story an adult would write and not an 18-year-old kid who wasn't cooked yet. And finally, and this may be a more immediate, little more, is that I'm going to journal all of this here in this space. And we may add or subtract a few things as time allows. I have some more ideas. I have some more voices, if you will, that would like to be heard. And if I can figure out how to make them heard, I'm going to do something about that. So that's what's coming, and I will say in 2024. And that is as much as a commitment that I can give you right now, because the writing process is slow. The figuring out process is slow. I'm fucking around right now. I'll tell you when we get to the find out phase. Yes, I know it's a different context, but just work with me. It's the scientific method. Fuck around, find out. Right? Okay. No promises, just patience. It has already begun. I will tell you that. And on that note, I will say thank you for your patience and your understanding, and that you should question everything but the contents of a tuna melt. Some shit you gotta take on faith. Stay solid, people. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.